Hello, everyone, and welcome to Will's Women and Wealth, where we lead you holistically from overwhelmed to empowered through estate planning. I am Elsa W. Smith, your Maryland estate planning attorney and the host of Will's Women and Wealth. This is a podcast for women who value their health, wealth, and the legacies that they are creating. Each episode is going to bring you interviews in the areas of finance, law, mental and physical health, and more. I'm also going to share educational episodes that answer your questions on wills and estate planning topics. This is a community, as I always say, so I want you to engage. Let's start growing together. If you have a question or a topic you'd like us to feature on Wills, Women, and Wealth, please let us know. And I welcome you to leave a comment. This and all future episodes will be available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Now, on with the show. Our guest today is Michelle Gordon, and she's amazing, and you'll see why shortly. But before I do that, I want to share with you all a bit about her. Michelle Gordon is the founder and CEO of Investably LLC. Investably is one of the few minority-owned registered investment advisory boutique firms in the country. With Investably, Michelle specializes in helping women and families on their financial journey towards living an impactful, enjoyable life while making financial decisions that support their lifestyles and needs. Michelle enjoys serving as a trusted fiduciary for long-term client relationships and helps her clients with an integrated, holistic approach to financial planning, investment management, retirement, and creating generational wealth. That's what we're all about here on Will's Women and Wealth. This includes discovering opportunities to create tax-smart investment and overall money strategies that may best support life goals, such as sending kids to college and retiring. In addition, she's helping women business owners comply with new Maryland laws requiring small businesses to offer retirement plans by advising on plan creation, management, and including an employee financial wellness program. Prior to starting Investably, Michelle had 15 years of financial services experience that spans working on Wall Street to working with industry-leading asset management firms. In that time frame, she's amassed a Stevie Award and over 20,000 consults with clients and advisors, where she led a client-facing department for a $52 billion asset management firm. She's a proud graduate of New York University and holds licenses. That's the 7, the 63, the 65, and a General Supervisory Principal Series 24 license. Ooh. Michelle is a proud mom and enjoys her free time with her family. She enjoys traveling and learning about history and culture. Without further ado, here is Michelle Gordon. Michelle, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I am excellent. Thank you for having me here, Elsa.
I've been looking forward to this interview for a long time, and everybody is going to hear. Everybody who's catching this on the podcast replay is going to know just how incredible you are. So, let me start off by asking you, why did you start your own independent firm? Why did you launch Investably?
Great question. It's my passion. Helping people is my passion. And you mentioned, and thank you so much for that bio. After 15 years, there was sort of something I kept hearing, and it kept nagging in me, which is there's more that we could be doing. And sadly, there was a lot of situations where I was hearing stories, and particularly with women in minorities where it felt like they weren't getting the support or the advice they needed. And I kept hearing these horror stories where people unfortunately were being sold these products that they don't need. And there wasn't guidance, there wasn't sort of like that fiduciary care. So I think like a lot of working moms during the pandemic, I hit a reflection point. And for me, it was there's something I want to do more. And there was a particular case that just really provoked me. I remember there was this woman, she was a single mom. She had 3 kids, most of them in high school age, nearing college. And I remember she came across to me. Someone had recommended, for me to talk to her because she was sort of almost on the edge, on the ledge. And the situation occurred that she didn't really have a fiduciary guidance or advisor she was working with, and she was looking to do the best that she can for her kids. And I think like all working moms, we can relate to that. And she was told, put your money into this one thing. And this one thing certainly happened to be a very volatile instrument, but she was told this was, it was a sure thing, go ahead. And at the start of the pandemic, we hit 2 very specific things on Wall Street. It was the oil crisis and the volatility spike. And in that time frame, in a 3-day time frame, this woman, I remember, lost about 86% of her investment, and it was all of her kids' college fund. And she had 1 kid going to college the very next year, and then the other 2 were a junior and a freshman. And I mean, there's nothing you can do in that situation, right? So all I could really do was really just sort of at least help her understand what was happening in the market. She didn't even have anyone she can turn to. And so, and I'm in asset management, we're doing something completely different. But I mostly work with guys, and they're like, okay, just here, talk to this female. And I get off the phone, and I'm a mom, and just I end up crying. I remember this, and I'm like, there's something wrong. There's something wrong when people feel they have no one they can turn to other than maybe, in her case, a social media chat room, Um, and I said to myself, okay, I cannot complain about a lack of fiduciary guidance. I need to, what steps can I take? What action can I take? And I say, you know what? Enough is enough. I'll step in. I'll go ahead and start my own practice. At least maybe I can't help every woman, but maybe if I can help just one woman from that situation, that to me would be fulfilling my own purpose of helping people and guiding people. Because that really hit home. I mean, I'm a mom, and I think like all working parents, we're just trying to do the very best for our kids, right? And we're trying to do the very best for ourselves. So to me, it was okay, time for me to do something about it. And what I figured I could do is I can go and start my own firm, because I didn't want to go work for, let's say, more of a traditional firm where it's all about sales quotas and meeting numbers and all of that. To me, it's about the client relationship. It's about the tying the money we work so hard for to the life we want to live, because it's not, the end goal is not the money. The end goal is the life, and it's the memories we're creating, the lifestyle. Either we're sending kids to college. Nowadays we're sending our grandkids to college as well. We're helping adult children. It's all of that, right? And the memories we could create together, the comfort, the confidence we can have. To me, that's where the value's at. And so I figured the best way for me to do that is to be completely independent, to work as a fiduciary where the standard of care is in the client's best interest versus.
Well, that's you're answering the next question that I had. And for everybody that was listening, who, they may hear the term fiduciary, we in estate planning, we certainly use that term quite often. But if you could just in a nutshell explain it to those who are listening and are viewing.
Yeah, because you guys are fiduciaries. So inside in the investment space or in the money space, the I mean, there's two things. You could be a broker, in which case it has to do with the level of client care. And as a broker, your standard of care is essentially, is this something that is suitable for the client? Let's say based on age, income factors, is it suitable? It doesn't mean that's what's in the client's best interest. A fiduciary, you are required by law to work in the client's best interest. So my firm, Investably, is an independent registered investment advisory firm with the state of Maryland. As an RA, the firm has a fiduciary care to its client. So all the actions I take are in the client's best interest. If there were any conflict of interest, that's something that would be disclosed. So it's a very different level of experience.
So it's like you're not going to, just to make it really practical,
No,
if there's, I don't know, like a commission based product or something like that, something where you can make quick money if you just guided your client into that product, you would be falling short of what would be a fiduciary duty. Is that fair?
that is fair. Um, you could earn commission. You have to disclose it.
Mm-hmm.
In my practice, I actually don't take commission for anything. I'm actually paid by the client for the advice or for managing their assets. In fact, even for example, what people think about commission, typically you think about retirement income products. A lot of those you can do those commission free, and it's all about really guiding the client. Because I have honestly heard horror stories, unfortunately, of people that are guided by, oh, okay, I can make X% commission on this. So we're just trying to see how many clients we can get into this. And that's the mentality. I want nothing to do with that type of environment. And I think that type of environment honestly produces horror stories, which is why I got into this in the first place. To at least, I can't help everyone, but at least help a few clients I can work with to not have that experience.
Michelle, what professional obstacles have you had, and how did you overcome them? We have a lot of women in this
Okay.
audience, and it really would be helpful for you to share maybe one or two that would help another woman who's trying to find her way, or maybe she's already established, but she's hitting a roadblock and she's hearing from another professional like you. If you care to share maybe one or two.
Yeah, no, certainly. I'll be the first to admit, I think when people think of investment services or asset management, you think of um, tall, white, male.
We're going to get to that in a second.
Price finder. I am the complete opposite. I'm not even 5 feet. I'm not, male. My husband will attest. You could attest as well. I'm mixed. Person of color. Woman with a personality.
We
I
have
am
flavor,
not.
honey.
You got all those things that it doesn't come to mind to people. So I'd say early on in my career, definitely there was a bit of imposter syndrome for sure. And also I think the sort of the credibility as I went higher up and had more experience, a couple things sort of my face, you could say fortunately and unfortunately, looked younger than my age. So I think for a long time, it's catching up now, but for a long time, people would think I was 10 years younger than what I really was. And the associated lack of knowledge or lack of experience. So I felt like I'm always sort of trying to compete with, no, I know a lot more than what you think I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so initially early on in my 20s, so dating myself here like 20 years ago, was sort of more of that imposter syndrome. And then even now, as I continue to grow my career, it was sort of having that sense of I always have to be the very best to just get the same level of recognition.
Ooh.
and I realize it doesn't really go away. I um moving out of corporate and now into entrepreneur and small business owner, and honestly one of the very few CEOs in the country that is a minority woman in this space owning a firm. You still have that continuous having to prove yourself versus your peers. And I see this, we talk about women in corporation asking for their raise and asking for getting that promotion. um, I'm here, I also work with a lot of women entrepreneurs and women small business owners, and I'm seeing the same aspect, except that it's not asking for a raise or promotion. It's actually getting paid what they're worth for their services. So it's that has been intriguing to see that pattern. For me, I was blessed to have an amazing leader I worked with for 11 years. This was someone who saw me for me, my attributes, my contributions, my potential. We always talk about that. It's how there's a tendency for guys to get hired for potential and women to get hired after we've done the job for like 2-3 years. They're like, oh, okay, you can do it. We can trust you now. But I had an amazing leader that really supported me and really took me under her wings. But as I was in other rooms in competing, in not competing, but in other rooms within the organization, I think like a lot of women felt that, spoken over, or, you were, this happened many times, present the idea that fast forward, in the same meeting, a guy repeats your same idea, and then, oh, you know what? That's a great idea. And me and a few of the women in the room are looking at each other like, really? This just happened? um, so that is just, I think, I don't know. I think I just dealt with it in terms of at some point I got to a point realizing that, you know what, it's not me. It's really
Right.
reflective of you, and just keep on moving, keep it
Well,
moving. And I kept on. Sorry, go ahead. And I
no,
was
no,
going to say,
no.
I
Go
kept
ahead.
on
Go ahead.
practicing
Finish your
myself.
thought because
No, and
I
I
want
kept,
to go circle back on the white male dominated industry thing.
yeah. No, I just learned to. I have to continue activating for myself, um, and it's just you'll get a no, you'll get a no, but just keep going until you get that yes. And if at some point there isn't a seat for you at the table, you know what? Get up and go and start your own table.
Amen to that. All of that. Woo. Um, so you and I, aside from the fact that we're women, we're business owners, on a more fundamental level, you and I have something in common. You and I are both Afro-Latina women,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how did that, showing up as, your beautiful, authentic self, how is that in, how has that been for you navigating in what I know is a white male dominated industry? The law certainly is, and within the field of estate planning, even more so.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me a little bit, was that an issue? Were you seen differently? Again, you talked earlier about people misjudging you
Mm-hmm.
because you look too young or because you're a woman or one or both, what was that other aspect? Because we don't hide this. We walk into spaces who like we are, and sometimes we may be the only one, maybe one of two or a handful. So did that impact your journey, your career in any instance?
I would say, um, I think the difference lies in probably early on in someone's career. You're still navigating life and yourself and all this. I think you get to a point in your life, you start to recognize that authenticity is worth so much more, and being your true self is worth so much more. And and there's, you know what, there's some very beautiful things in being an Afro Latina in our culture, that really makes us amazing in what we do. And what I found was that when I brought my true full self to work, um, clients actually loved it, because to them it was a breath of fresh air, because I wasn't this clone, I wasn't this robot. I was like a real person. And then something we talk about in our culture is we're there for people. My abuela always says, don't good do good, don't look at who. I'm sorry, I had to translate in my head.
No, he's saying it in Spanish, but chances are we've got people that are Spanish English bilingual who are listening or watching. So yeah.
No, my abuela, she is my north star. She's my moral compass. Abuela always says, "Haz bien, no mires a quién," and that honestly is the core of how I live my life. The translation is "Do good, don't look at who." And when I approach, if that's how I approach life and my interaction with people, it I show up differently than maybe some other people did, because, for example, I would then treat with the same level of respect and humility and with to the CEO of the company as I did the people who were cleaning in the office. I had the same rapport, and it's a rapport of humanity and of respect and dignity. And I think everyone is so deserving of that. And I think when you start looking at people in the lens of like, I'm this dollar amount, or I'm this title, or I'm this whatever, and you're not looking at the heart, and you're not looking at, this is a human being. They've got obstacles and challenges and the human story and things they aspire to, or things that they're working for. When you start to stop seeing people that way, I think you stop acting or treating them in a more humane way. And if you keep people with that focus that they're just another beautiful human being, with their struggles, with their challenges, with their experiences, and that we're just really one, and it's sort of this life experience, life journey, and we're all sort of experiencing it differently, but we're still going through life together. I think it changes how you show up to people and how you care for people, and your humility as well, I guess.
Do you think that your not only professional experience, but your cultural experience
Mm.
helps you to connect more with your clients? Just bringing a different
Oh,
perspective on things.
no, absolutely. I mean, my parents were immigrants. I myself as well. I came to the country. I was a baby. Um, in that those roots are part of my core, and through that work ethic. I've never met two people that work as hard as my parents. Um, my mom, in particular, is the epitome of what being a fearless woman is. Um, doesn't mean she doesn't have fears. It's just she acts despite the fears. And one thing I've learned is that no challenge was big enough. You just keep at it. And sort of understanding that, and witnessing that and experiencing that, for me, it's I definitely have a soft spot for anyone who's been a first generation, second generation, who's had that experience, because you sort of feel like you have so much more of a journey to and challenges to overcome to get to where you are. So for me, it actually, when it makes me value so much more the effort someone made to earn the amount of money they have. And that comes in with the amount of extra care, really, that I would treat it versus maybe another person who didn't have that perspective or didn't even have that context. Because I understand how hard it is to to develop something, to work on something, especially when you don't have the expertise or the guidance in terms of what to do, what's the best moves to make, and you just sort of going through life and just trying to do the very best that you can. So for me, it really does help me relate to people. And I especially love it. I've been in this journey, I've been meeting so many amazing, amazing women who have overcome so many obstacles to make it. And they've got these lofty titles, and or they run this corporation. I mean, also you as well. And I just really appreciate that journey that it took, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, for them to go from where they came from to where they are now.
Well, let me share, since we're sharing, and that's the kind of vibe that I want this show to be. And I think maybe when you and I went to lunch together, I shared with you a bit about my background. My parents immigrated to this country, from fleeing communism in Cuba. Right. I was born in Puerto Rico, raised in Miami, but that's how they made their journey, barely knowing the language, and
Mm-hmm.
yet having to start anew in a country that with open arms embrace them and say, okay, we're going to give you a chance, do something with it. um I was raised in the inner city.
Mm-hmm.
I went to gifted schools for part of my early education. But I was an inner city kid, with a very sheltered mom. I hear a mom who sheltered all her three kids very much. But you know, we strong work ethic,
Huge,
and I think
huge.
that that's something, that families of immigrants, immigrants, that we've got that
Yeah.
strong work ethic, like
Mm-hmm.
crush it, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I too,
And no matter what, yeah,
right.
there's no excuse, no
Yeah,
matter what.
faith in God, and let's keep pushing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the families that I help through estate planning, a lot of them are what I call, in my context, first generation in creating an estate plan.
Mm-hmm.
My parents didn't know anything about estate planning. And let me, turn it back to financial planning. I did, and I said this, in an interview that I did not too long ago. I said, listen, my parents didn't know anything about financial investing or anything like that, right? We just did the best we could with what we had. They were working class parents, and I didn't have the conversation, with my parents when I turned, 17 or 18. Oh, Elsa, now that you're getting into the workforce, let me introduce you to my
Mm-hmm.
gal, my guy over at XYZ, investment house, so you can start building your portfolio. Are you
No,
kidding
no,
me? Yeah, my mother be like, "¿Qué, qué?" You know, and
no. It's all
I mean,
it all goes into the colchon. It all goes into
right,
the colchon.
colchón, right, the mattress for you non
Yeah.
Spanish speaking listeners, or the cookie jar or whatever, those conversations did not happen, and
Mm-mm.
because they did not happen, your my money story was different,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked with professionals, to help me, with that. And I'm sure, you can share, um from the women and other people, because I know you help women and men,
Mm-hmm.
but from the women in particular that you've helped, that they've had probably a challenging money story.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming to you for help, but they bring so much baggage, right,
Mm-hmm.
with them, like, I'm scared,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Michelle, you gotta, what do you say, um to women like that?
Well, it's for one, I can relate, because, um, for example, I get to NYU, which, for people who don't know, it's a pretty prestigious university. It's also
Indeed.
highly expensive. And for the first time, I'm learning what is a trust fund baby. And the conversations I'm hearing is never in my wildest dreams would ever have heard in my home. But you see the impact of the generational wealth, because, first generation, second generation women, we're we're dealing with significantly more student loan debt, right? Um, especially if we make it to those big institutions. Very different situation than, let's say, someone who the college is completely paid off. They graduate day one with zero debt. And yeah, and their parents person is right, coach them on, hey, start a Roth IRA and invest in that. And 30 years later, you've got tax-free growth. You don't hear those conversations. Um, for example, I vividly remember I took it upon myself to figure out how I'm going to pay for college. And I remember just being a 14-year-old trying to figure out how is this going to happen? And someone tells me, oh, there's this thing called, FAFSA. I'm like, what is that? And learning about it and going to the library and borrowing all those, older SET books and trying to learn on the SET books and practice so we don't have to pay for an SET course. That's kind of the part about being a first, second generation. There's so much that you do on your own, and there is no path laid out for you. So you're really the one creating that path for the second and the third and the fourth generation behind you. But for me, when I'm working with women, is helping them understand, hey, let's write out, what is your money story? What's your money script, right? Let's see how it's been impacting the decisions you're making. And really, let's focus now on your vision. What's the vision you have for yourself and the vision you have for your family? And then let's map it out. And how can we constructively get there and have the data to support the decisions that we're making, to really map it out? Because when you can show someone visually, you choose A, this is the likely outcome. You choose B, this is the likely outcome, and C, etc. When they start seeing things concretely, and you start to get those sort of aha moments. Oh, wow, I didn't know just making a small change can impact things. But for me personally, one thing I love working on very much is just being intentional, just in life, being very intentional with everything we're doing. And financial part is just one piece of it, but it sort of fuels everything you're trying to create. So I really do work with my clients to be very intentional with what is most important to them. So we actually do work through like a value exercise and line up their values so that the steps we're making, we're actually making sure we're aligning it to their values. For me, as an example, I love to travel. I definitely love spending time with my parents and my family. And I think I mentioned to you, my family was just relocated to Florida. So for me, trying to get down to Florida once a month, that is a value piece for me. And taking my son with me so he has more time with his abuelos, and can pick up the Spanish. I'm working on that.
Absolutely.
That's a value piece for me. So, for example, how it translates is, okay, I know I have this budget every year. It's money. I'm just traveling back and forth to see my parents, which is separate from, let's say, my travel budget to Europe and any other place I'm going. I'm a beach person. I definitely need to have a beach vacation every year. So it's just, those are things I cherish and I love. It makes my life happy. What is it for someone else? And for everyone else it's different. And it's not about what it is, as long as we know what it is and we are being intentional with it and we're making smart moves. Because what I don't want is someone walking blindly into their future. And the reality is, if there's about 3/4 of the population right now in the US that feel a lack of financial confidence, that's not good. That's not good. And that's something that we need to work on.
So let's kind of get granular with this. If
Mhm.
I am a woman in need of financial help, guidance, don't know really where to start. I work. I have some assets. I have money to invest. I just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I come to you, walk us through what that experience is like. What do you need from me? What happens first? And just like
Okay.
initially, like what happens?
Yeah. Well, the very first thing is just I do a 30-minute free consultation with everyone. And that's really just a time to let's get to know each other, right? Tell me a little bit about you. What's your situation, circumstances? What are your pain points? and honestly, and let's see if it's a good personality match, because I get most joy working with people on a long-term fiduciary basis, because I love seeing their journey. I love being part of that for them and their family. Um, and I may not be a match for everyone, and that's okay. And someone may be looking exactly for someone who is as authentic as I am, and is really here to guide you. So we really start with a 30-minute free consultation, just to kind of tell me a little bit about your situation and go from there. If they decide they want to work with me, then it's easy. I draw up the client agreement, send it to them, and then we get started. Over a course of 1 or 2 months, we are diving into your goals. We're diving into your values. We're diving into putting all the money on the table, essentially, like where all your accounts, where everything that you have. And then based on your risk level and your profile and all of that, because we do a lot of profiling, I'll put together a plan for you that matches your profile, your values, what you want out of life. So we're doing a lot of vision work as well.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
then
because some people have different risk tolerances, right?
exactly. And just many different factors. So you and your neighbor could have identical, let's say, money situation, but the what's in the best interest for both of you would be very different, because what you want in life is very different, and then your approach to life is very different. So I work very personalized, and then also holistic, because I believe in, I'm not trying to solve for sort of this one little piece. We're trying to build the whole picture for you, so that we don't um, accidentally, let's say, do one thing and then it impacts you in another area. So we're looking at making sure from a high level that we're putting the best picture for you from a tax standpoint, from a for example, we allocate the assets tax efficiently, do these investments give you the type of income that you need, etc. So there's a lot of things that we're looking at, but I put the plan together and then I review it with you. We go over everything, and then we go ahead, then move over to implementing it. You can implement it with me, or you can implement it on your own or with someone else. That's completely up to you. I do find enjoyment of being still part of the journey and working with people continuously. Um, but in short, I'd say it really just starts with a 30-minute free consultation.
Great. Michelle, what do you love most about helping people? What's
Ah,
the one thing you love most?
ah, seeing their joy. Like, it's seeing their joy in terms of the big stuff. There was one woman in particular that I remember. She was like, I just want to make sure I'm going to be okay to retire. And she was thinking, 60 something. And when I put everything together, and granted, she helped because she's been doing, a lot of really good things. But this is someone who's been, as far as she knows, she's been doing everything that she thought she needed to do. And came to me because I just need extra help. Like, what else? I've maxed everything else. What else can I be doing? And I just walked her through, like, hey, these are some strategic moves that we could be making. And by the time I put everything together and showed her, hey, there's a path if you want to take it, you could be retiring. You could be retiring about, it was 6 years earlier. So at the end of her 50s, she almost fell out of her seat. Like, and she's like, nowhere in my wildest dream that I thought. But it's just about presenting options. I think life is just about choices, and let's make sure we're making choices that are intentional, and we're not just sort of walking through life aimlessly. For me, it's the joy. It's the joy that, okay, we're hitting these life goals that we want. We are, you know, we are in some aspects, people have saved a lot, but then now they're in the retirement stage, and it takes a while to kind of make that mind shift, because the mind shift, oh, save, and you're not thinking, oh, I can kind of get off the pedal, just enjoy what I've worked for. So seeing my clients that are now in that sort of new retirement phase make that shift and actually just start to enjoy everything they've worked for. That is joy. When, if I get a postcard like, hey, we're here, I'm like, yes, live life, because I don't know. I think there's, if all you know is you just have this one life, it's why not be impactful? Why not live it to the fullest? That's what I'm trying to do with me. For me, my mom in Florida called me last week, like the Powerball or Mega Ball, whichever those is in the billions. I was like, play it, play it. I'm like, here's my, just play it for me. Go ahead. And for me, honestly, and I told her, it's like, what would you do if you won? I'm like, I would still be doing what I'm doing right now.
I love it.
Granted, I would be either on the boat in the Mediterranean or in the private island in the Caribbean. Location would change, but I would still be working with my clients. So for me, I'm living my purpose. I'm living a fulfilling life. I make time for my son. Now as I have a little bit more flexibility that I can actually go when they have these special events in school and walk in and
And
see.
I want to ask you about that too.
Oh, go ahead.
How do you, you're a wife, you're a mom, you're a business
Oh,
owner, how do you balance motherhood and entrepreneurship?
lots of coffee. Coffee from Richard.
Cuban or American coffee or both? Or
Italian
espresso?
cappuccino.
Cappuccino.
Um, uh, well, for one, it's you have to have your support circle. Oh my God. I've met in this journey some amazing women that have, sort of been on this journey, but so they have experience that I don't have in terms of just the mental ups and downs of entrepreneurship. They have just become my wings, my who I call when you have like those days and it's like, oh my God, because someone said it's like a roller coaster ride, right?
Yeah.
I have an amazing husband that helps so much, but for me it's carving time for self-care really helps, and making time for my son, which is one of my core, which is to be a present wife as much as I can, be a present mom, because I only have one. I don't want to miss it, and I know pretty soon he'll be 10 and doesn't want anything to do with me, and then he's off to college and I'll be crying. Um, so for me, it's making the time for myself, mentally, making time for my son and my husband, traveling, like I said, trying to go see my parents, and everything else. It's just take it a day at a time, just like everything else. But when you enjoy so much what you're doing, that really does help. And from the bottom of my heart, I'm living my purpose. So every day is a good day.
I
And
love it. I
yeah.
love it. And I just love talking to you both. I was excited to do this show, but when we met and I just knew that we connected on so many different levels. We really do get joy out of seeing,
Yeah,
bringing out the best in the people that we serve. And
absolutely.
it's by, in your instance, you're giving them access to tools that enhance what they have, that can grow what they have in order for them to live their best lives.
Yeah.
In my case, in estate planning, I'm helping people to not only plan for what happens when they're not here, but estate planning is about a quality of life while you are still here.
A
you know
huge peace of mind.
it's
Huge
huge.
peace of mind.
You
Huge.
walk differently. In the last show that I did, one of the things we talked about is not being afraid to reach out and have professionals in your circle,
Mhm,
professionals like you, professionals like me, and having that normalized, right?
mhm.
In, dinner table conversations. It's like, oh yeah, I had a meeting, I had a Zoom call or whatever with Michelle today. Well, who's Michelle? Oh, she helps me with my finances. Oh, tell me more about that. It's got to flow like
Mhm,
that, right? It should
mhm.
flow like that. We've got a ways to go, but we're all making strides, in our spheres of influence. So I think people hearing your and listening to just how authentic you are. I mean, I can't imagine clients not liking that about you. You're real. You know what it is. You know what the value of a dollar is, and you're going to fight like heck to help them protect it, as with all the knowledge and the years of experience that you have in this industry.
Mhm.
What I said, what three tips, let's say three tips, do you have for entrepreneurs? You serve a lot of business women.
Mhm.
What tips do you have for them in order to set themselves up for success?
Okay. For one, I'd say you have to have your money situation right. Unfortunately, the stats are horrific in terms of how many women business owners get some form of access to capital, let's say in the sense of VC capital, venture capital.
Venture capital.
It's horrendous. And I think it was staggering. I think it was like less than 2 or 3%. Um, so if you're in business, I'd say have a plan that you're going to be bootstrapping. That's the worst case scenario. So make sure it's not just your financing for your business is solid. You need to make sure your finance for your personal is solid as well.
Mm.
Because for us to succeed in business, we need to make sure we've got the longer the runway we have, the better odds of kind of like that takeoff as a plane. So whether it's make sure you have sufficient business resources. If not, then make sure you have the personal, and that can hopefully help the business. Or
Mhm.
if the business is doing well, but the personal is not, well, we need to take a look into that. The second thing is you gotta have your support network. Oh my God, just I think as human beings, we were really meant to be very social and tribe like. And if you look back in history, that's how we functioned for years and centuries, right? We function in communities and in tribes. So who's your tribe right now? And if you don't
Mm.
have one, I highly encourage you to create a tribe. So who do you call for support? Who do you call if you're a working mom? Who's the one person you would trust to with your children? Who would you trust to give you advice in your business, or just sort of on anything, or when you just need to take a moment and not think about that? Who would you call for fun? It just Who's your tribe, and make sure you have people who are in your corner who celebrate your wins, and that's huge. And if they don't, you don't need them. um and then the third, I'd say, is just self care. I personally struggled with that horribly, but
Same here.
I
Same
understand
here.
the value. No. And I understand the value of that so much, which is why I have to be intentional with it, because it's not something that comes natural to me. And I think, and we could talk about, in our culture, I almost feel like it you're taught the opposite, right? You're taught you're always giving and giving and giving to everyone else, and giving to yourself seems like such a bad thing. And it's now, someone, middle age, mid 40s, I've learned that no, we need it. It's not bad, it's not selfish, it's actually necessary, for me to show up and be my very best for my family, for my parents, for my clients, which honestly, my clients are my friends. It's we work. I work so deeply with them, and I get so involved, that they really, at the end, they turn into friends and clients. Sorry, clients turn into friends and family almost. So for me to be my best person in showing up for them, I need to make sure my cup is full. So make
Mm.
sure you are filling your cup, so that you're and I'm going to quote Oprah here, but once she said, make sure your cup is so full that your cup is spilling over,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you're giving to people from a full cup.
I love that. I love that. Now, I want to turn the focus back to your business and
Okay.
some exciting developments. We're going to talk about two of them. The first thing is you recently developed a cohort
Mhm.
program. Could you enlighten us all on what that is about and how people can reach out to you and
Yeah.
get involved?
Yeah, I actually did two things. So I work very holistically. I'm doing financial planning, but again, also as an investment expert, I'm also doing investment management as well. So I really marry the two and looking at things holistically. But I understand not everyone either is at that point where they feel they can afford those type of services, or they feel that it may be too much for them. So I created two things. One is an 8-week cohort program. It's meant to be in I created a program, and it's on demand so they can work through it together. But we have once a week, weekly live, like a webinar, and it's the cohort is limited to 25 people, but it's mostly focused towards women because there's specific challenges that women are going to be facing as we get older. We're living longer. We tend to have less social security and less assets for a number of reasons: wage gap, wealth gap. We're the primary caregivers in many instances, so we're taking time off from work. So there's a lot of specific situations that I think impact women in particular. So the court order it's a way for me to help a larger number of people in a more efficient way. And so it's something they can access and basically walk them through how they can create their own plan, but I'm giving them guidance and education along the way. So that the one just started. So the next one kicks off in March. Um,
For those who are catching this on the video, I'm going to put Michelle's contact information on the screen,
yes.
and you can reach her at her website investably.com. That's
Mhm.
investably.com, and you can schedule a consultation with
Yeah.
her and find out all the things that she's doing with her firm. I just wanted to make sure and focus on that before we wrap up. But you've also develop something else exciting. They're
Mhm.
called 401k days. Though I've been looking at my 401k and at times it looks more like a 201k. And at times I don't even want to look. But tell us more. Tell us more about your
Uh,
401k days.
well, in same concept, because I work really, working with just sort of a handful number of women clients, and I still do have capacity for a number of more clients to take on. Um, but I created 401k days because there's a larger segment of people that really just have that one need. For example, this would be someone that either most of all of their assets are in their 401k, and they really just want help with understanding, am I doing the right thing with my 401k? Am I invested well? Am I not? And I just need guidance just from this. So I've set out uh, max 10, 10 openings a month. So for 10 new people a month, with just limit scope, with just reviewing the 401k. So I'm developing your risk profile. I'm developing, you provide to me your company's plan summary, and I can, based on the investment options you have, put a tailored plan for you. Because surprisingly, um, well, unfortunately, I find that people end up actually taking on more risk than they thought they were taking. So I'll walk you through that. And the other thing we're looking at is I'm looking to reducing expenses for you also within your 401k as well, because the less expense you have, the more you can keep, um, long term. You'd be surprised how just how a minor change can have some substantial impact long term.
Wow. Wow. And again, investably.com.
Mhm.
Is that pretty much your website is like the hub if we want to connect with you in any way? And I guess find you? Are you on social media as well?
I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me on
Okay.
LinkedIn, Michelle Gordon, and on my website. That's the best place because you could schedule an appointment, just a 30-minute free consultation on the website. So through Calendly link, and just schedule something that fits your time, fits my time, and we'll meet just like this via online.
I love it. I love it. Michelle,
Yeah.
this has just been a joy for me personally, because I love, you talk about living, being intentional, living your mission. Um, this podcast is part of that mission. It is not only educating and empowering women through all the aspects that they need in order to really have a strong estate plan, and finances and money
Mm-hmm.
is a huge part of it. But it's also, giving a platform, giving a space to professional women, to women, real women, moms, other professional, non-moms, moms, professional women who are out here. We are trying to make an impact. And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted so much to create a safe space so that they not only can see and hear from people like you, but that hopefully that they can see themselves in you. That if that you're doing it, you're trying to make an impact. What you and I do, we're talking about legacy building, right?
Correct.
What's the legacy that what's the impact that you are making, not only for yourself, your family, your community, the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
It all depends on what your goals are, but we're doing the same thing in in different circles. But you and I are part of that team, that necessary team that people
Correct.
need to have in order to really, like, holistically, deal with their finances, their estate plans. So I'm honored, quite frankly, that you said yes and agreed to be a guest on the show, that you've been so gracious with your time, and that you've been so transparent about your history, your life, and your experiences. And I'm sure that that can only be to your client's benefit, to have someone that's just real, that gets it, that gets what it is that they're trying to do. Your and just your outlook, um it's something that's needed in the world. More of that, more of meeting people where they are, without judgment, and saying, I want to help.
Yeah.
Tell me what it is that you want,
Yeah.
and let me help you
Yeah.
get there. Because
Thank
people
you.
people that want to be seen, they want to be valued, and they want to be helped, right? So
Yeah.
that is one of the amazing things that I believe that you do, with Investably. And for everybody listening, for those of you catching this on video, um, reach out to Michelle. We'll put the appropriate disclaimers, because she, like I, are in industries where there's a disclaimer for everything. And everything that we've talked about is educational. There's no financial advice being
Yeah.
given, and all the full disclaimers are going to be in the show notes. But I wanted this to be, hopefully, one of many conversations that you and I have on this and other
Mhm.
platforms, because this is necessary.
It is.
People need to see women who look like us, women
Mhm.
who are taking up space in our respective industries, and who, even better, are making an impact. We are touching lives. You, one client, one family at a time, you have the power to change an entire family's trajectory.
Yeah. For
And
joy.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, that to me is like, it's got to be so humbling,
It
right?
is. Yeah.
You know,
It is, and it's a joy, and um honestly, to me, it's my life's purpose.
yeah. Yeah, I am. Again, I just want to thank you again for being on the show, and we got to do this again sometime. This is good. This is good stuff here, and hopefully we're going to help a lot of people. Everyone, Michelle Gordon, her company is Investably. You can reach out to her at investably.com. Michelle, have a wonderful afternoon, and I'll talk with you soon.
Thank you, Elsa, and it's been my honor to be here. And thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Everyone, what a great show, and the notes from the show are going to be in the show notes for those of you who are catching the podcast. I am Elsa W. Smith, your Maryland estate planning attorney, and I just want to thank you for joining us for another episode of Wills, Women, and Wealth. Until next time, be well.